So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 30 minutes. The idea is that you get to cover your current affairs on a daily basis, but you don't have to spend your entire day just reading the newspaper. Therefore, we will cover the entire day's current affairs within 30 minutes. Now, just watching this lecture within 30 minutes would be job half done, because just after watching it, you need to spend some more time revising it as well. Why? Well, revision helps in consolidating these current affairs in your memory. Otherwise, you'll quickly forget them. Now, you can revise these current affairs from the notes provided by us, and these notes shall be shared on our Telegram platform. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comments section just below this video. Okay then, let's begin with today's session. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. So in total, we'll be covering these three topics only because these were the only three topics that featured in today's newspaper but were of importance for civil services examination. Okay, other news items we can ignore. Now, number one on this list is escalation ladder of conflict. You must have heard about this term escalation ladder when we were talking about India-Pakistan conflict, this 4-day conflict post Operation Sindoor, right? Every expert was talking about escalation ladder. We are climbing up the escalation ladder. So what is this escalation ladder and who gave this concept? Okay, we'll talk about this. Then recently, Finance Ministry has made an announcement and it has directed all ministries and departments of the government that if they want their schemes, their ministries' schemes to continue, well, they would have to get third-party evaluation of their schemes. Okay, by third-party evaluation, we mean to say that they need to evaluate their scheme whether they are effective or not. Only then government would allow these schemes to continue. Okay, so we'll talk about this important, very important news item. And in the end, we'll talk about religion in China. We all know that China is ruled by Communist Party of China. Okay, and Communist Party of China follows communism. And communism believes in atheism. Okay, but people are religious in China. So what is this entire thing? Religion in China, because recently a controversy erupted when Pope, okay, the Catholic Church's Pope made some remarks. Okay, so we'll talk about this. Okay, so these are the only three topics that we will focus our attention on. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with topic number one, and that is escalation ladder of a conflict. Now, what do we mean by escalation ladder? Okay, the thing is, whenever there is a conflict, we basically, or whenever there is a warlike situation, that warlike situation basically evolves step by step. Okay, first there is a very small attack. Okay, then there is provocation from both sides. Then there is a small scale conflict. Then it becomes a large conflict. Okay, full scale war. Then it can even escalate up to nuclear conflict, as in the case with India and Pakistan. Okay, now each step is basically imagined as a step on a ladder. Okay, with each step, things escalate. Okay, and each step of this escalation is imagined as if you are climbing a ladder, and that is why it is known as escalation ladder. So from small, very small conflict, it leads to a full-scale war-like situation. So from small conflict to full-scale war, there are various steps that are crossed by different countries. Then you reach this full-scale war. This is known as escalation ladder. Okay, makes sense? Now this idea or this concept was given by Herman Cahan. So we will talk about this idea. Okay, what was the idea given by Herman Cahan? And what steps did India and Pakistan climb on this escalation ladder, okay, during this 4-night military confrontation post Operation Sindoor? Okay, make sense? All right. Okay, then first let's talk about Cahan's escalation ladder. Okay, so the idea of escalation began to appear in strategic literature in the years after the end of World War II. So every defense expert, every war expert started talking about this idea of escalation. That how do conflicts lead to World War-like situation? Okay. Now, Herman Kahan was an expert, okay? He basically established a think tank in Washington DC also. It is a Washington DC based think tank called Hudson Institute. He's a very famous personality, okay? Now, Kahan gave this concept of escalation ladder in his book that we just showed you, okay? Now, Kahan's metaphor for escalation was a ladder. Each step or rung denoted a rising level of conflict, okay? In 1962, Kahan proposed a 16-step ladder. Okay. Then later, 3 years after, he gave 44 steps. 44-step ladder. Okay. So remember this, that what escalation ladder means in case of conflict. Who gave this concept of escalation ladder? Herman Kahan. Okay. In 1962, first he gave a 16-step ladder, then he gave a 44-step ladder. More elaborate way of escalating conflict. Okay. Now, if we talk about India and Pakistan, what steps did India and Pakistan take while climbing up this escalation ladder? Okay, so as per Herman Kahan, step 1 is when there is an ostensible, visible crisis. And this visible crisis started with the Pahalgam terror attack done by Pakistan-based terror groups. Okay, then step 2 is when India responded by political, economic, diplomatic gesture. What did we do? We cancelled visas of Pakistanis, stopped trade and postal services, closed the airspace and put Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance. This was step 2. Step 3 was declaration by one country or two countries. Okay, we made formal declaration. Prime Minister from Bihar made declaration that his country would pursue terrorists and those who shelter them to the very end. Okay, this formal declaration was made. Then even Pakistan made a declaration that if India tries any misadventure, it would be responded with force. So declarations are step 3. Then step 4 is hardening of diplomatic positions, hardening of your positions. India started diplomatically and on media blamed Pakistan. Pakistan started blaming India. Then step 5 is show of force. Military exercises are conducted. Indian Air Force conducted military exercise. Indian Navy conducted military exercises, and it was responded to by Pakistan also. This show of force, military exercises, is considered step 5 and basically acts as provocation that we are going to attack you. Okay. Then step 6 was mobilization of force on the borders. Okay. India started mobilizing forces, its forces on the borders. Pakistan also did that. But from step 6, all these first 5 steps took a lot of time, 14 days, 13, 14 days. But from step 6, India quickly did this step 6 and escalated the matters to step 7, step 8 and step 9. On step 7, India went on step 7 by basically attacking terrorist hideouts through Operation Sindhu. But then matters escalated to, well, acts of violence, attacking each other's military installations. And then a ceasefire was conducted. So both sides stopped on step number 9. Step number 10 would have been full-scale mobilization of forces, okay, or across the entire border. Okay, step 11 would be, well, conflict, like step 10 is localized conflict in a particular area. Step 11 would have been increasing the area of conflict from Kashmir to, well, Karachi, okay, from Skardu to Karachi. And step 12 is full-scale war. Step 13, step 14, it leads to, well, nuclear war also. And step 16 is the aftermath. After the nuclear Armageddon, the rebuilding and reconstruction. That is step 16. So India stopped at, and India and Pakistan both stopped at step number 9. Now, what is the way forward for India? How should India be ready to respond to Pakistan's provocation? Okay, so what is the current change in India's doctrine? India has established new red lines. India has declared that from now onwards, we won't honor this distinction between terrorists and army, your military. You are both one and the same thing, okay? And any act of terror shall be considered act of war. That means if there is any other terrorist attack, India would respond militarily. India won't be blackmailed by Pakistan's nuclear weapon. This is also India's change in nuclear doctrine. India would attack. No distinction between terrorist leaders and state sponsors like the army, and lower threshold of action. Generally, India takes military action if another country's military takes the action. If India is provoked militarily, then India responds. But this time we took military action based on a terrorist attack. So there is lower threshold for action. In terms of Kahan's ladder, next time if there is an attack, terrorist attack, well, India would quickly start from step number 3 only. Not step 1, 2, 3. From step 3. And experts say that this time the ceasefire won't stop matters at step 9. The matter can quickly escalate to step 12, which is large conventional war. Conventional war means minus nuclear war. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, but you should know that India has updated its security doctrine. Okay, and these were the steps on the escalation ladder. The term escalation ladder was given by Herman Kahan. All right. Now let's move forward to topic number 2, and that is again very significant: third-party evaluation of central schemes. Okay. Ministry of Finance has told all ministries and departments that no centrally sponsored scheme or central sector scheme, basically central schemes, not state schemes, central schemes, will be considered for continuation beyond March 31st, 2026, unless a third-party evaluation of the scheme is done. The thing is that different ministries and different departments of the government basically implement these schemes. Now, to implement these schemes, they need money. So every year they ask for this money from the finance ministry. So they present their proposal to the finance ministry. Finance ministry appraises their proposal and then sanctions a budget to these ministries. Now, government has said that if you will not evaluate your existing schemes from a third party, renowned third party, third organization, okay, if you do not create an evaluation report from done by a third party, your projects, your schemes won't be appraised by finance ministry and your schemes would not continue beyond March 31st, 2026. So from 1st April 2026 onwards, only those schemes would be allowed which would verify their schemes or basically evaluate their schemes from a third party. Okay. So next 16th Finance Commission cycle shall begin on 1st April 2026. Now, what is this 16th Finance Commission cycle? We'll talk about it. But this is what India Finance Ministry has said. Okay. Now, what is the government directive? The evaluation should be done by a third party, and that evaluation report of the third party must demonstrate that this scheme has shown positive outcomes and there is a need for continuing this scheme. If this evaluation report does not show positive outcomes and the need to continue the scheme, government won't continue the scheme. Ministries and departments have been asked to conduct evaluation studies of their schemes by the end of July this year. After the approval for continuation of schemes beyond 31st, 2026 from Expenditure Finance Committee before the start of budget making process. Okay, so after that, only when you finish these evaluation reports by July, then only you will be given approval by Finance Ministry, okay, Expenditure Finance Committee of Finance Ministry. Clear? Now the question is, well, this is for central schemes, right? And central schemes are of two types: centrally sponsored schemes, central sector schemes, CSS, CS. So what's the difference between the two? So first, about central sector schemes. Well, these are schemes which are implemented by central government, and 100% funding of this scheme will be done by union government. Okay. When it comes to centrally sponsored schemes, well, the funding is shared between union and state, generally to the tune of 60-40 ratio. Okay. And these schemes, centrally sponsored schemes, are implemented by state governments. Central government only provides 60% of the budget. This is CSS. CS is completely financed and implemented by central government. Okay. Example of central sector, National Mission on Micro Irrigation. Example of centrally sponsored, MG Narega. Clear? Now, what do we mean by Finance Commission cycle, 16th Finance Commission cycle? Okay. Now listen. Finance Commission is a constitutional body that decides the distribution of money, taxpayers' money between center and states. Okay, it is constituted every 5 years and it gives its recommendations for the next 5 years. Okay, so far 15 finance commissions have been established and recently 16th finance commission was established which gave its recommendations, and those recommendations would be followed by the government. But like I said, finance commission is established for 5 years, therefore the recommendations of 16th finance commission will be followed from 2026 onwards. Okay, 5 years from 2026 onwards. Okay, now distribution of money between center and states is important for central government to plan its expenditure. That is why the planning of government expenditure is done every 5 years based on this finance commission cycle, for every finance commission cycle. That is why it was written that no central schemes shall be allowed to continue in the next finance commission cycle. Okay, that is what we mean by that. Okay, all right. Now let's move on to third news item, which is religion in China. Now, why was this in the news? So the new Pope Leo the 24th, okay, has asked for prayers for China's Catholics to be in communion with the Holy See. Holy See is the organization of Vatican City, okay, which oversees relationship with all the other countries, especially Christians of all the other countries. Nonetheless, well, Pope Leo the 24th is Vatican City's Pope, okay. Holy See is an organization of Vatican City. Now, Pope Leo the 24th has said that we need to pray for Christians in China. Now, this has been seen badly by the leaders of China. Okay, China is ruled by Communist Party of China, and the leaders of Communist Party of China, well, they see this this comment as provocative. They see it in bad faith. Okay, because relationship between China and Vatican City, which is basically the Vatican City is the leader, Pope is the leader of all Catholic Christians across the world. Okay, now Communist China basically broke all relations and diplomatic ties with Vatican in 1951. Well, wherever Christians are there, countries of those areas have established relationship with Vatican City and Pope, not China. China broke that relationship in 1951. Clear? Now, thing is, we need to know about religion in China, because you see, China is ruled by Communist Party of China. Communist Party of China follows an ideology that is called communism. Now, communism is an ideology that basically looks down upon religion. It is basically an atheist ideology and says that religion is not good for humanity. It goes against religion. So naturally, the attitude of Communist Party of China towards religion would be a little hostile, right? Now, first let's talk about how Christianity reached China. Christianity was a European religion, okay, a Middle Eastern European religion. How did it reach China? So, here's the history. Catholicism in China. So, Christianity is said to have arrived in China with a monk named Alubin in 7th century during the time of Tang Dynasty. But in the later years of Tang Dynasty, well, Tang Dynasty basically stopped these external religions, okay. Then Christianity went down in China. Then it was revived by an Italian priest called Matteo Ricci. Okay, Matteo Ricci also traveled to Goa and he was basically ordained in Cochin also, Kochi in Kerala. From there he went to China and he's the one who's credited with popularizing Christianity in China. He popularized Christianity to such an extent that in 1850 to 1864, there was this dynasty that was ruling China. It was called the Qing dynasty. There was a massive rebellion against Qing dynasty, the ruling dynasty of China. And that rebellion was Taiping rebellion. And Taiping rebellion was inspired by Christianity. Its leaders were Christians. Such was the influence of Christianity in China that in 19th century, it shook the foundations of a ruling dynasty. Okay. Then civil war-like situation erupted in China and many things happened and so on and so forth. In 1949, Communist Party of China under Mao Zedong took control of China. Okay, naturally Mao was a communist. Okay, therefore he abhorred religion, he was hostile towards religion, and that is why while many countries of the world where Christians reside, they establish relationship, they have diplomatic relationship with the Vatican City, with the Pope, Mao Zedong destroyed that relationship, those diplomatic ties, in 1951. Okay, China's relationship with all religions. Now, this is China's relationship with Christianity, but what is China's relationship with all the other religions of China? So as far as China is concerned, China recognizes these 5 religions. China says that these are the 5 religions that are officially recognized in China. Catholicism, Protestantism, which is another branch of Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and Taoism. Okay, so Taoism, this is an indigenous religion. Buddhism, as we all know, came from India. Islam, we all know, and these two are basically branches of Christianity. Now, these religions are officially recognized, but what is China's attitude towards it? Now, in 1966 to 76, Mao Zedong launched Cultural Revolution. In that Cultural Revolution in China, he basically destroyed all religions and their symbols. Okay, religions and religious groups faced severe persecution under this Cultural Revolution. It was a really bad time in China. Then in 1978, some liberal reforms were conducted by Communist Party of China under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping. It is through these reforms that China became an economic giant. Now, when we talk about People's Republic of China's constitution, Article 36 of their constitution guarantees religious freedom, but says that your religious freedoms can be put, or their restrictions can be applied on it. The biggest restriction is that religious groups and religious affairs shall not be subject to control by foreign forces. So if there is Christianity, you have freedom of thought, okay, freedom of religion. You can be Christian, but your religion in China won't be controlled by foreign forces. That means Pope cannot control Christianity in India. The religious heads won't be appointed by Pope. Okay, administration, appointment of bishops, all is done by Communist Party of China. Okay, so it is heavily state controlled and no foreign interference is allowed. Okay. Now, this was the case until Xi Jinping. Okay, so when Xi Jinping came to power in 2013, well, he started controlling religions even more. This process is known as cynicization of religions. Under cynicization, well, all the Chinese characteristics of your religion would be enhanced and all the Western and foreign characteristics would be suppressed. But people say that cynicization means that you are basically trying to convert religions as per the culture of majority population in China, and that is the Han population. Okay, there are brutal crackdowns on various religious groups like the Uyghur Muslims of Xinjiang province. But this is a different debate altogether. Alright, and with that we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it will add more value if you are consistent and regular with this lecture series and if you revise this lecture. So please do not forget to revise. And on that note, I'll be signing off with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.